Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Purple Noon, a podcast. I am Stephanie Conti, and I am here with the love of my life. So tender. It is the fern to my swanky,
Oh,
Savanna
I never had a
Lanausse.
song. I never had a song before. That's nice.
You notice how I didn't even know the lyrics. I just knew love of my life. At least it was on key.
Was
No, I wasn't, but we can continue.
Thought that counts. Okay.
How you doing?
Good. Good.
You're in the motherland again.
Yeah.
I mean, Florida.
The
I mean, it is what it
mainland.
is, but we're in the same time zone. I'm so much closer to
nice.
you now.
Feel connected.
So connected. But life has been good. Flight was good. Anything crazy happen on the flight? It's a flight to Florida. I mean, something's got to give, you know?
It's just the same old people trying to get away. This one flight attendant, I felt really bad. She had to go to the same lady a few times because this lady was eating the same cracker for like half an hour and a half and didn't want to put on her mask and was basically like, "Oh, I'm still eating."
Oh my
And the flight
god.
attendant was like, "Ma'am, you've been eating that cracker for like an hour." And I was just trying to mind my business, but I was like, "Oh my god, this poor lady."
Yeah, it's so that's so funny though. Like the whole and they start doing that stuff at Disney now because at Disney you're obviously allowed to get food and stuff like that. People are like weirdos are kind of doing the same tactic where they're just constantly holding food in their hand and they're like, "I'm about to take a bite, excuse me," but they just hold a churro in their hand the entire time they're at Disney.
I think
And there's like
Disney
little
made a rule.
niblets.
I think Disney's like, "Yeah, you can't do that." Apparently, because I would hear like I know people that still work there and they're just like, "Yeah, there are people that just hold the same water bottle all day." And are like,
Yeah.
"I'm gonna drink this water bottle." So Disney literally had to make a rule that you have to be sitting down if you're gonna like have food. I just can't believe that.
So crazy. I can't believe they're open. I mean, well, I mean it's Florida, you know, but it's still crazy.
Disneyland's gonna open soon.
Mhm. Wow. That's crazy.
It's been like a year.
Yeah, it has. And they just got out of the rough of it. I'm surprised that they're opening up so soon. I know like not I think some of the parks open back up because yeah, that the YouTuber Trisha Paytas, she was like there thinking like no one was going to be there and like showed video and it was entirely packed like to the brim.
Yeah, that was their downtown Disney area. That was just like the shopping
What?
center.
I thought that was their actually like Disney, you know?
No, the park is gonna open up, like the actual theme park is opening up next month. That's just for shopping.
Oh my god, that's crazy. Like that's actually insane. Nope, I wouldn't. Even like non-COVID, like if there were that many people going into like Disney
for 3
Springs or something,
hours,
I'd be like, come
yeah.
on. Come on. Like there's outlets. What are you going to do? You're going to go to Coach store where you know you're not going to buy anything. You know, at least go to one of the outlets, you know, at least that's for me because I like go like some days I'm like, oh my god, I want to go into this store knowing I'm not going to be able to buy anything in that store.
Yeah.
But it is what it is. So Golden Globes happened. What did you think about Golden Globes? Were you content, satisfied, dissatisfied? What happened?
It was fine. Like I thought there were like a lot of snubs, but the people that won, I think, deserved it.
Mm-hmm. And in even bigger cinematic news, and I totally agree, we gotta talk about this new Ridley Scott project.
Okay.
Do you know what I'm talking about?
No, I don't know what you're talking
I'm
about.
talking about the new Gucci movie.
Oh yeah, the sweater. The sweater.
I am so like, have you done any research on it or anything like that?
I've heard a few things, but I haven't like looked into it. Like I know some of the cast that's in it, but that's about it.
All right, let me go through it just to give you the full exposure. You ready?
Uh-huh.
All right, so it comes out this year, end of this year. I don't know how they're gonna do it, but it comes out end of this year, like November. It's called House of Gucci, directed by Ridley Scott. And it's the story of how Patrizia Reggiani, the ex-wife of Maurizio Gucci, plotted to kill her husband, the grandson of renowned fashion designer Guccio Gucci.
Gucci, oh
Mm,
Gucci?
Gucci oh Gucci.
What a
That's his
name.
name. I know. But then we got to talk about this all-star cast. All-star cast. Like, actually insane. Love it. We have, and I'm assuming these are brothers because I don't see who's playing Guccio Gucci. I'm not sure if he was alive during this timeline, but we got Jared Leto
Jared
playing
Leto.
Paolo Gucci.
Paulo.
We got Dunkachino playing
Oh,
Aldo
our
Gucci.
Dunkachine. Oh my
Yep.
god.
We have a little bit, I was like, okay, we have Jeremy Irons playing Rodolfo Gucci.
When's the last time he's been in anything? Wow.
I don't know. Wasn't he in Man in the Iron Mask? Or am I getting confused because his last name is Iron?
I don't think he was in Man in the Iron Man.
I think I'm just getting confused.
Oh, wait a minute. No, you're right. He
Oh, he
was.
was?
He was.
Wait, no, wait, are you sure?
No, he was one of the Three Musketeers.
Hold on.
I'm
Let
pretty
me,
sure.
I gotta save my
He was
reputation.
also the guy, the French guy from The Woman
I
Next Door
think
is in as well.
I'm right. Oh, yeah, I'm right. Yep. I knew there was a correlation. I knew it. Probably some casting director was like, Jeremy Irons, Man in the Iron Mask. I hope someone did that same thing that I did. And of course, we have playing the husband that is plotted to be murdered, Adam Driver playing Maurizio Gucci. I like
Is
how
he
we
gonna
just
do it?
have a slew of European men all just playing the same families, like just Italian, just all different European branches, all of them playing Italian.
Is he gonna do an Italian accent? I'm very excited to see
I
that.
don't know. I don't know how far in the lineage, I've honestly, when they were like, oh, this woman plotted to kill Gucci's grandson, I was like, huh? I've never heard of this. I heard about the Versace, but I
Yeah,
didn't hear of this. So I was a little bit surprised. And of course, we have probably like the best decision ever. We have Lady Gaga playing Patrizia Reggiani.
that's great casting.
I love it.
It's a good
It
job.
seems okay, so it's right now directed by Ridley Scott. Not too sure who the people who wrote it are. We have a Italian man named Roberto Bentiveglia, or however you pronounce that last one. I'm not too sure. But I think what would have won me over is if I saw in the writing credits, who do you think I'm gonna say? Writing credits. Guess what I'm gonna say for writing? If I would have like lost my mind for writing.
Steph, I feel like I know, but it's not coming to me. You
Say
always
it.
talk about this. No, I don't know.
The man who wrote American Horror Story.
Oh, okay. I know who you're
I
talking about. I know who you're
feel
talking
like if
about.
he was a writer, got some direction,
He
this would
does. Ryan Murphy does a lot of movies like this.
Ryan Murphy, thank you, that's his
He
name.
did.
Yeah, well, because he did the Versace one.
That's
So I feel
why.
like he could do, especially knowing how Gaga is and everything like that, especially already working with, someone like Gaga who's going to be playing the lead role. I think it's just so great. And then also, apparently, rumored to be in it is Jack Houston, who
Hmm.
I believe might be Angelica Houston's son or related to the Houstons in some way. Not too sure. But yeah, there's a lot of people.
I
A
was
lot of good names in this one.
surprised with the director that's attached to it because
Yeah, Ridley Scott.
he did The Martian and like I think
And Alien.
Thelma. He did Alien.
Thelma and yep.
I knew Thelma and Louise. So I was like a little surprised with him. Like
Yeah.
it just didn't seem like the first
It's the
choice.
yeah, like I definitely when I don't think of like I feel like something like and not to discredit Ridley Scott in
No,
any
he's
single
very
way.
good.
I think yeah, he's a phenomenal director. But he's not the first one I come to mind when I think House of Gucci,
Like
you know?
family drama.
I think
Yeah.
more like as soon as I think of a name like House of Gucci, I'm thinking more, oh my god, the guy who did The New Great Gatsby, Laz Berman. I'm
Yeah.
thinking that level, that theatrics, and things like that. But I could see David Fincher. I could see David Fincher doing
Okay.
a movie like this.
Okay.
And honestly, Scorsese could have probably done this, but it would have been way too long. Sorry.
I feel like maybe this is too Scorsese. I feel like this is just too perfect for him. I know he's trying to do what's the movie he has coming out with Leo?
I think it's called like The Glass Castle. I built something that was based off a book.
Because I know the next thing he's gonna do is supposed to be like out of the box for him.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like very interested in that. So I feel like doing another Italian family drama would just been too perfect for him, you know?
Okay. And also just to get a little bit of the history of the Gucci family. So Maurizio Gucci, played by Adam Driver, his papa in the film is actually hold on, I just saw the name. His papa is Jeremy Irons.
I love that. I like
Is
Jeremy Irons.
but where does Al Pacino come in? Who is he gonna play? He's not Grandpappy Gucci.
Maybe he's
He plays Aldo Gucci. Maybe he's an uncle.
I would
Let me
assume
look up.
he's uncle.
Hold on. Hold on. Is
Maybe
this the
the
same Aldo like Aldo shoes?
I don't think they're related to the Gucci's, are they?
They gotta be.
Ah, I never heard of this.
Oh, Aldo committed tax evasion in 90. In 1990. Sorry, I just
Oops.
discovered that information. Oopsies.
Oh, he's the eldest son, right? I'm looking it up right now.
Really,
Of
Eld.
Guccio Gucci.
Oh no, he is brothers. He is oh wait, brothers with Rodolfo. Yo, that's a little bit of a diss to Jeremy Irons. I don't think he's that old. You're telling me his brother's gonna be Pacino?
How old is Jeremy Irons is up there. How old is he though? I don't think he's 80.
No, I don't think. Oh shit,
Let's
he
look
was
it
born
up.
in 48. He was born in 4. Oh my god.
Is he how old is that? 80?
No. Oh damn, there's only an 8-year 8 difference between him and an 8-year 8
So what is he
age
like
difference?
70 years old?
Mid 70s most likely.
Oh, see, he is old. I didn't know he was that
Yeah.
old. I was thinking like 60s.
Yeah, I damn. Look at you, Jeremy Irons.
You know
Keeping
where I
your
know him
beauty.
from? Which we should talk about on the podcast one day. You know what I
The
know?
man in the iron mask.
Okay, but it's actually Lolita is where I know him. He played
Oh, you were
the
talking about that with me earlier this week.
yeah, because I want to do a TikTok about why that movie shouldn't have been made, but
Ooh. Oh
I
yeah,
just
by
saw
the
the
way, guys, if
thing.
you haven't I started adding our personal TikToks to the comments or to the description. You should follow our personal TikToks. We've been making banger content. Banger
Yeah, you have
content.
great. Stephanie has a great aesthetic. It's really cute.
Thank you. I shoot everything on my pink rug in my room, and it's just the same. I'm very consistent with it.
You're
And I
Valley
love
the
how all of a
Dolls.
sudden I'm the one who invented putting Criterions on a pink rug. And what does Criterion do? They post a Criterion DVD on a pink rug.
Coincidence? I
I
don't think
literally
so.
sent it to Savanna. She's like, "Hey, that kind of looks like you took it." I'm like, "Excuse me, Criterion, don't be stealing my aesthetic now." Like, yeah, people have like the pink rooms and you have like, oh, the pink gamer girl, but I own pink rug.
Yeah, you were the
Pink
first.
rug is mine. That's
Yeah.
my thing. That's my thing. You know, apparently it's a family thing, and you want to know why? Because in my grandma's house, her entire first floor, where my great grandma used to stay, and then my aunt ended up living in for a little bit. They have the most beautiful pink shag carpeting running throughout the entire floor.
I love that.
That is my lineage.
That's a
And
look.
Criterions, you will be hearing me from my lawyer, which is just me from a red telephone. It's just me from like a Powerpuff Girls style red telephone. So
That
stupid.
sounds threatening, though. I don't think they want to
That
deal with
does,
you.
and it is. Read between the lines, Savannah.
No, Steph.
Sorry, am I threatening you now? I don't know. I'm
I think
like
you're just getting
halfway
very
down my
defensive
tea.
with the rug. You're just getting very
Yes,
defensive.
very, very. I'm halfway down my tea, so we need to start talking about this movie because this tea is not going to last me the entire night, telling you that much.
Okay.
So, you ready to begin?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Today, we are going to be discussing 2020's Nomadland. Nomadland currently, right now, is available on Hulu. Not sponsored, but could be. Hulu. And it is about after losing everything in the Great Recession, not the 1930s or 20s, whenever that first one is 2008. A woman embarks on a journey through the American West, living as a van-dwelling modern-day nomad. It is directed by Chloe Zhao, and it's based off the book Nomadland by Jessica Bruder. In terms of cast, we have Frances McDormand playing Fern, and we actually have a bunch of first-time actors in this movie. Not a lot of information on them, but some notable characters would be people like Patty, Linda, Angela, all based on real life characters. So, Savannah, without spoilies, and this movie has been hyped about a lot during award seasons, and actually, Chloe Zhao won for Best Director. Savannah, without any spoilies, what did you think of Nomadland?
I'll start with the positives. So, I really like movies that give us a look into a different kind of way of life. I think that's kind of the purpose of movies, to show
Mm-hmm.
us how other people are. So, in that sense, they did a really good job. And we also, I have really seen movies about the recession in 2009. Have you? Because I haven't.
No, and you know what's so funny? I'm watching this movie and they're like, "Oh my god, like this happened." And I was just a kid, so I was like, "Dang, I thought 2008 was a great year." You know? I had Crazy Frog. So I'm just thinking like I was
I
kind of
know
like
for
thinking like,
us,
"Wow."
and
You
I mean,
know?
we were lucky not to be affected by it in that sense, but yeah, we don't see a lot of movies, and this is something that happened now 20 years ago. So
Yeah.
it's interesting that nobody talks about.
Whose dog is that?
It's Ramos.
He's there?
Yeah,
What's Ramos doing in Florida?
my dad brought him.
Oh, he's here.
I told you.
Sorry. No, I thought he was coming with the weekend, but I was just like,
No, he
dang, is
came.
there a dog right out your front door?
No, it's Ramos. He's being very nosy because he's like, my dad brought him. He drove down, and he's like,
Oh,
"Oh,
if
I'll
it's
bring
Ramos, I
Ramos."
forgive him. I forgive him then.
He's like, "Oh, I'll bring
Um,
Ramos for you to see," and I was like, "Okay." Now he's making
oh,
noise.
that's so sweet. That's so
Yeah.
sweet. But okay, I forgive Ramos. He's fine. He's fine. He could keep doing his thing. But yeah, like thinking about like 2008 and stuff like that, I'm thinking like, man, I was learning about Obama. Good times, you know? Like, I really didn't have a grasp,
No,
and fortunately
yeah,
and I say that from, like, a privileged perspective of
yeah.
my family not being heavily affected by, the Great Recession. So I think it is interesting, and the fact that it's called a Great Recession too, and, at first when I saw this, I was like, "You mean that thing with FDR?" I was thinking I'm not a I used to be a history buff, but all the new the information is just slipping away over the years.
Yeah.
But so I was a little bit surprised, but it did make sense, and I do feel like it's something we just don't talk about a lot, you know?
No, exactly. Um, Another thing I like is that the movie's very raw, and you can tell this was based off somebody's life. Like, even the characters, you can tell, like, these came from actually people in their story. So I appreciated that.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, I mean, I think the film is just giving us a look at what happened to some of these people after the recession,
Yeah.
and what they went through and how heavy things were. So in that sense, the movie does really do a great job, and Frances McDowell is really good in it, like very
Mhm.
very good. So yeah, those are my positives. What did you think?
I definitely think it's a movie worth watching, but if you're looking for storyline, plot, like,
Yeah,
very linear type of things and very, like, hero's journey type of stuff, this is not the movie for you. I do think it's a really good movie to start up to have conversations with, and, like, even, like, for example, this movie wasn't my favorite. It wasn't a bad movie, but it wasn't my favorite,
no,
but
yeah,
I definitely, after watching it, was like, "Ooh, I can't wait to talk about this," because I do feel like there are just a lot of different points within this movie that, make you wanna just start up a conversation, and I think it's, very well done, very natural. Sorry, I'm holding down a burp. I don't wanna do that.
it's okay.
So if you hear me just that's why. But I just while watching this movie, it's a little slow at times, but it is very interesting, and it is
Yeah,
so much more interesting when you find out that everyone, like, except for Frances McDormand, played themselves, and that a lot of it was ad-libbing these characters and figuring out everything and just going through and just playing around and getting like real glimpses into these people, in their lives and everything.
Right.
So I do recommend seeing it, but I do think the overhype of this movie can be very misleading, because I was definitely expecting, like, to be sobbing in
Yeah,
the
like
corner of my room,
drama.
like shivering and being like, oh, the
Yeah,
Great
and
Recession, or something of that caliber.
I think
Um,
there's a lot of misadvertisement with it for sure,
for
because I
sure.
think
I'm thinking I'm gonna need a box of tissue. This is Into the Wild all over again. I'm gonna see,
yeah,
some
like, I thought it was
dramatic
gonna be
thing.
like, "Oh, this is gonna be, like, a sad story," and, like, there were many sad stories to it, but it wasn't
It was more
overly
somber
dramatized.
than
Yes.
sad. It was
It
more
was
like, "Aw," than
exactly.
tearjerker.
And I think you made a good point. The movie doesn't have a plot, but more of, like, this message and more of, like, this is what people had to do. So if you're looking for, like, plot, a climax, action, this movie is more of, like, maybe, like, a viewing experience, maybe
For
educational.
sure. And I think also I think even though that this movie takes place, like, really only ten years ago, if you really wanna get to the number, 10 years ago? 10 years ago. 10
Oh my
years ago.
gosh, I said 20.
It's okay. I was just making sure, doing, math in my
No, it
head.
is
12
10
years. It happened
years.
about 12 years ago.
Yeah.
But honestly, I think it's still incredibly relevant, because not only with what everyone is going through now with COVID, it kind of feels like we are going through another recession. Like, I mean, like the amount of people like going through to and depending on food banks now for like the first time due to COVID is just crazy. So I do think this movie was relevant. And I do think it also brings kind of another conversation, not too related to it, but it does bring it up. And that's this whole nomad slash turn a school bus into a whole home type of deal. You know what I'm saying?
And it was really interesting to see because now it's very trendy. I don't know, like,
It
I've seen a lot
is.
of vlogs, people like, "Oh, we turned school bus into a home with 3 kids."
And
Very
like, here's the
hippie.
thing, if that's what you wanna do, that's fine, but don't advertise it as, like, some very I think for me, what I always find, like, is people like, "Oh, yeah, we wanna live on minimal," and things like that. It's like, "Homie, you paid $150,000 to renovate a bus."
Exactly.
Like, there's not really like, the camper life when you have a working shower, toilet, washer, and dryer in your renovated
Oh,
1960s
yeah, and
bus, you
a
know?
full-fledged kitchen, and then I follow this one family, not to get off topic, that lives in Australia, and the parents, like, quit their job, and the mom gave birth to in a cave, and they're just super weird, super hippie, but they're just like, "Yeah, like, this is what we do. We shower wherever, we buy all organic groceries," and they just have this beautiful van, but they, like, promote not to call this family out blast, but they, like, promote, like, "Yeah, like, save the earth, save the planet. You gotta just do your part," and I'm like, "You guys ride in a bus all day long. You got no jobs, you're hanging out." Like, they obviously have some money. So I just like, when I realized that, like, 10 years later, it's a trendy thing to do, it's just like, wow.
And, like, and if you wanna do that, like, to each their own, but I think there's a huge misleading, because you have to remember, car accident, you've lost everything. Everything. Car accident, burglary, there's no like, "Oh, I my house was burglarized. Thank God they didn't take, the car keys because 'cause I'm in my car." No, like, it's you lose everything. So I
It's
do
just
like
a
how it does
very
give.
yeah,
What were you
I think nowadays it's just a very privileged thing to do. I think, like, if you can
Exactly.
like renovating a van and stuff, like, it really is, like, now living in a car and having all these things, like, it really is privileged because you have to have money to do those things and have money to, like, uh, live. It's not as
Yeah.
much as a house, but you still have to keep up with it. Like you're saying, like, that's your home at that point, you have to keep up with everything. So I think
Yeah,
this
and
movie
it
kind of deglamorizes all that.
deglamorizes, and then also, like, and people like today, like, there's that van girl on YouTube with the little blue van. Sweet little thing with her little pet snake
She's
Alfredo. Love
cute, she
watching
look
her. She's cute. But I do think there's a huge misleading to things like that, because, this is a girl, very tiny girl who lives in a van all on her own, will stay in parking lots all on her own. There's no security cameras, there's no security at all. There's,
Yeah,
like, all it takes is a bashed window for someone to get in, you know?
exactly.
So I think and then also I saw this incredible documentary a few years back, which if you like something like Nomadland, watch this documentary. It is on YouTube and it talks about there's this one college in California where they were rapidly trying to figure out a way to get more dorms because they said that one in every four students on that campus was living in their car
Oh my god.
on campus because they ran out of housing. Housing became too expensive for some people, and this whole promise like, because it would be like, student housing is in no way as much as, like, an apartment in California, you know?
Yeah,
Even if you split it with, like, 3 people and things like that. But it's this crazy documentary of, like, how, like, these kids not only go to school, but they live out of their car and they're going to work while all being at this college. And it just
right.
goes through and it, like, just shows, like, the entire parking lot at night was fully engulfed in cars because of how many students, 1 in 4 students. It was so, so crazy.
Yeah.
I
That is
highly recommend it. I forgot the name of the documentary, but I'll link it in the description if anyone wants to see it. It's a really crazy because
yeah,
it,
I
it was
wanna see it
only made
actually.
it was only made like 5 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
And it was really, really just shocking. And so I think a lot of people and like this whole like van life and nomad, there's so many and I think they do highlight some issues. There's so much more that they could have highlighted. Like for example, when Frances McDormand her character Fern is freezing. If she is in the Midwest in a van with no insulation, there needed to be a little bit more because she wouldn't just be like, "Ooh, I'm cold," and under the sheets. Like,
Yeah.
she would get sick because that is how cold the Midwest gets during the winter.
Yeah.
And even a van, unless it is, fully because you can put, like, lining and stuff like that within the van to keep it warm, but it's just I feel like it hits some issues. I wish it kinda shifted a little bit more focused on how tough the van life is more than how tough living during the Great Recession is.
I think one of the faults of the movie is it has a lot of different meanings, but each meaning isn't shown very much. So, for example, like a big thing was the Great Recession, but then, another topic would be like grief and
Yeah.
moving on. And then another topic would be like how hard van life is, but we didn't get to see all of that a lot. Besides the Great Recession and hearing people's stories, we didn't get to see the grief situation too much, only in certain scenes. And
Mhm.
then we didn't get to see like how hard no bat. I mean, you did, but like you were saying, I think it would have hit the point a little bit more if they showed more little things.
Yeah.
If she got sick or I mean, I know like the van had issues and stuff, but I think just little details always helps. Always helps with like driving your point home.
Absolutely. Like, and they were like, "Oh, your car is scuffed." It's like there could have been a situation like flat tire. There could have been a thing where like and for example, if like car accident happens, and also like things like this woman, the character Fern she has a cell phone. How does she charge it? There's no chargers or anything like that in that type of car during that time. And solar power, these portable generators, that's not something you could throw in the back of a truck or a car or
No,
a van or anything.
I
So I
agree.
I wish it was more a little bit more at least like a nice 5 minutes of the total movie kind of focusing on that and showing how difficult because really all I just saw was Frances McDormand just shitting in a van.
I mean, like honestly, for a movie that was about survival, there wasn't a lot about how you survive.
Yep.
And that was my biggest issue with it because it always talked about these people. And granted, there were some really great messages, like when Linda May was talking about how she felt suicidal and how when she went to like look at her pension, there was only $500 and she had to go to work when she was elderly. Those
Mhm.
things are fantastic. If they just mixed more little details of living the nomad life, little details of moving on from grief, like they were hinting at, I think the movie would have felt fuller. It's just it was very pick and choosy.
Yeah, and I think also with a movie like this because, it's advertised as after losing everything after the Great Recession. She kinda lost everything beforehand when her husband died,
Exactly.
and I think it should've focused more on her being a widow trying to live alone and move on rather than focusing on a woman becoming a nomad and trying to make it out in the American West. I kind of wish that they had just shifted that perspective a little bit more, at least because that's what, you watch the trailer. That's the sensation you get from it. When you watch, you're I feel like the whole trailer, the synopsis and everything is a little bit misleading for what it actually is.
I agree. Yeah, I think although there are great like you can learn a lot and I did learn a lot and I like the aspects of the film. I just wish we under another thing is I do wish we understood the character a little bit more because from what I understood and my observation of the film, she didn't have to be a nomad.
No.
So she kind of chose this and I wish we saw more of that. I wish we saw more of her choosing this. And like there's scenes where she's telling people like I'm good, I don't need a place to stay, and she's very firm on it.
Mhm.
But I do wish we would have saw her like maybe actively like just something because
I do wish there was also, like, a greater emotional side to her because it just felt like from beginning to maybe that when she's back in her hometown to that last second, it just feels like this character from beginning to end is emotionally closed off from her, from us, and everyone in that movie.
yeah, it's a very hard character to break through. I did like the scenes where people would come up to her and not even have a conversation with her, just pity her. I think those things are all relatable.
Yeah.
And you kind of do feel like just the characters being uncomfortable, but that's the only thing you feel. You feel her uncomfortable at certain parts and then just very I don't want to say indifferent, but just kind of like this is the way it is. That kind of attitude.
Yeah, and very like and I do think it's really cool to get an insight onto how like these nomads end up finding work and that's doing like temporary jobs here and there for Amazon during the seasons and things like that. I think that's a really great way to show it cuz I mean that is something that's also should have been said more that people once past 65 if they're no longer in their field that they have been working in for years, they're unwanted in terms of any type of work industry,
Yeah.
you know? So I do kind of like that it touched that, but I wished it focused more on that. I think my favorite story out of all the different characters was I think it was Swanky. I think that's her name, where she was the one with lung cancer.
Yeah.
And she was the one where she describes like she was like, "Oh, I could have just died with like all the birds around me and stuff like that." And then we see the video of her and the birds there again, and then we soon find out that she, passed and everything like that. And I was like, "Oh!" Like I
That was a
fell
good
for
one.
that character because it was some type of arc into a very it almost felt like a anthology between
Mhm.
all the different people she met, but yet no solid linear storyline within her.
Right.
It felt more like this main character was used to tell other people's stories rather than her own.
I mean, if they were trying to go for like the drifting type of movie, because it really the movie just drifts, and if they were trying to go
Yeah.
for that, great, because they did a great job. But I think the movie did suffer in a way because, like you were saying, like they were just hints of great things. Like for me, they were talking about why they chose this life, and there was this man who just said, "Yeah, I'm a veteran, and I can't do loud noises. I have PTSD. This is why I do this."
Mhm.
Little things like that, if they capitalized it, if they just showed the main character having a little bit more emotion, if we got to know her a little bit more,
Yeah, because
nomad
she's like,
life.
"Oh, okay." And then it just moves on.
Yeah, so I think the movie is very distant. It's very
Yeah.
emotionally distant and it's a little bit inaccessible, but it's not a bad movie. I enjoyed watching it. I don't know if I would watch it again, truthfully.
Yeah, I can see that, and like I said, it just kind of feels like you have this main character that's like, "Nope, I'm not gonna open up," and you have so many different characters coming from each side, and it's like, "Come on, here's your character arc, open up," and
Yeah.
she goes, "Nope," and in the end, it still feels like she's going, "Nope."
Yeah. Yeah.
And it wasn't like a nope where it's like, "Oh, she stuck to her roots, she did," but it was just kinda like she gave in to her, her guilt, especially with her husband. That was the thing I in terms of storyline where I was like, "Okay, you've at least could have gone with this." Like that whole like when he's like when the kind of lover type of character, not really
Yeah.
lover, but kind of we're hinting like maybe they could be lovers. When he's like, "Hey, like you can stay here for like longer," and literally offers like a whole new life for her, and she just can't let go. And the thing is that we don't get enough information to fully comprehend why she can't let go. We just get, oh yeah, husband dead. But we don't see any glimpse of the husband. We don't see any memories. We don't see anything for us to make that connection that it's like,
Exactly.
oh, she's carrying this huge guilt. It's just kind of said, not shown, which I think harmed it. It harmed
Yeah.
it because as soon as she went back to the town, I'm like, you fool, you had
He was such a
homie
nice
over
man.
there, you know? He looks like the one guy. Ah, there's this one actor he looks like, and I know it's not him. Hold on, I gotta figure it out. But because I kept confusing him with the other actor. But yeah, I was just like, come on, man. Like this was like the one point in the movie where it's like you should have done something happy for yourself.
Yeah.
Because at least like because the whole part of like a nomad and like doing that is just doing what makes them happy. And yet this woman's like, I can't because of my feelings and my guilt. It's like you're not being a nomad then, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, the movie
I'm trying
definitely
to
has some
think.
weaknesses, some
Mhm.
downfalls. What do you give it? I'm curious.
Oh, before I give it, I wanna ask you, it won for Best Directing. Golden Globes. Your thoughts? I know
Honestly,
we're about to get into something a little bit rough here.
I wasn't impressed.
Yeah.
I thought, have you seen Promising Young Woman? You haven't,
I
right?
have not seen it.
It would have been better off there. It would have been better off there, to be honest. If they were just trying to give it to like a woman director, it would have been better off with Emerald Farrell because
Sam Elliott, that's the guy who I keep thinking was the man. You
he
know
does
Sam
look,
Elliott?
yes, he
Yeah.
does look like Sam Elliott, like a younger Sam Elliott.
Mhm.
Um, Not to, because I think she did a good job. Like, I'm not saying this was trash directing. Like, it's not that. It's just I don't see, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see anything super special in this movie.
And that's kinda how I felt, and here's how I see it. She did a real in terms of sticking true to the character, sticking
Yeah,
true to the nature, sticking true to the feel of the movie. Because if she was, like, pulling all these crazy ass angles and stuff, I'd be like,
yeah,
"Dude, what are you doing? This
yeah,
is supposed to be more realistic."
right.
But still, it you still could've played up on things. I will say there is one shot in this movie that is absolutely stunning, and I love it because I was like, "Oh, shoot, that's, like, a really great, well-made scene," and it's, nudie Frances McDormand, like, floating in the river and just floating down. I'm like, "That's a great scene right there." Like, the way it was, like, angled and things like, just the way it was set up and everything, I was like, "That's really great. I like how that's done." But, like, for example, when, um the Swanky, the girl with the sparrows and everything like that all around her, I really wish we got to see that from her perspective and not the perspective of like an iPhone video.
Yeah, yeah,
Something that's supposed to be so like, you know, this is so beautiful. I could have just died there. Play up on that. Play
yeah,
up directing and the visuals and things like that for how it looks. Play up on that. That's the scenes where you're supposed to do that and then fall back to reality. But the fact that we just kind of saw it on the phone, then it's like, I can see a few swallows. I see an eggshell. That's it. It was very lackluster from the way that this woman described it, and I felt like if Chloe Zhao had, and I can understand it could have disrupted the feel of the movie and stuff like that, but I still think a lot of the beauty of the look of this film just comes from location and just comes from prepping on location,
That's what I'm
not
saying.
necessarily directing,
I
you
didn't
know?
see anything like you're right, it's just the setting. I just didn't see anything that was like super special, and unfortunately I do think it would have been well deserved somewhere else. Not that she didn't do a good job, I just think there were other people that might have it
Yeah,
might
and
have
I
just
can't
been
comment because I didn't sadly watch a lot of the movies that this is Nomadland and Minari are really, like, the only, like, newer movies that I've seen, but in terms of, like, even just comparing it from movies last year, like, they're, like, like, non-nominated movies, there were definitely a lot of movies out, like, last year, like, sorry, Tenet. I'm sorry, I'm gonna be one of those little film nerds that, like, Tenet shoulda got a nomination. Yeah, it should've, because the directing was phenomenal.
I wonder why
Um
it didn't for that particularly.
I don't know. I don't know. I wonder that too, but even, like, oh, for example, another scene I was thinking of in terms of, realism and balancing it out with, like, very dreamlike and very ethereal states, The Five Bloods.
I'm really
That could
upset
have
that
been
none of them got a nomination.
very deeply, madly upset, but, like, something like that could have been fantastic. Using elements where it creates the realism and everything like that. And then like the moments with like Chadwick Boseman where we can tell like that this is a vision, this is a dream and stuff like that, where like the lighting is a little bit more golden, you know, and like everything has a little bit softer effect. That would have been really great portraying, you know, the swallows and like all the little birds and things like that flying around this woman. I also really wish that it was more like I was invested in Swanky. I liked Swanky. Her death just came out of the blue, and it
Yeah.
wasn't anything, like, fully it could have been more intense.
Yeah, it could
It
have been
could
more
have been more
developed.
intense, you know? But I do like the conversation that was built off from it when the one guy was like, you know, like, talking about, like, a family member of his committing suicide and was like, "That's why I say I'll see you soon. That's why I don't say bye." You
Yeah.
know? And I thought that was beautiful and that was great, but it's like it's almost like everyone playing themselves did everything right, but for some reason, it just felt like the writing and the directing was off a step, you know?
Yeah.
And I hate to be this way, but I do compare this movie a lot to something like Into the Wild,
I mean, I feel like that's fair. I
where
feel like
you
that's
have this
fair.
person who has this idea where it's like, "Nope, I am free of this. I will become a nomad," essentially. And but you get more story. You get personal development. You get, you know, all of this stuff dealing with, you know, his own, like, you know, Christopher McCandless divorce and everything like that. And it's kind of like the same thing because, you know, Christopher McCandless in that movie meets like Vince Vaughn's character, meets Hal Holbrook's character, meets all these different people and ventures on. And remember, he rejects all these people along the way.
Yeah.
So it's literally like the same. Is it the same?
It's a very similar concept within a different setting. So
Yeah.
this is supposed to be like what happened to these people after the recession. So it's the same thing, just different tempo.
I also do think that we get more when comparing it to a movie like Into the Wild because it's kind of the same template. The person, this nomad going on an adventure, and people trying to stop them along the way, saying, "Hey, here's a home.
Yeah.
Here's love. Here's affection. Here's this. Here's whatever. Here's a reason," and them just being, "Nope, nope, nope." But in the end, I feel like Into the Wild had more of a hero's journey, more of a character arc,
It was
more of
just
story development overall than Nomadland.
Into the Wild was a lot more accessible. Like you knew the character, you understood different reasons why he was doing this. You understood the other characters too. It's just for this one. You
Yeah,
have a
even
big
like
idea.
and I even without, like, the very dramatic ending to Into the Wild, I still think even without that ending and the great actor transformation done by Emil Hirsch, you cut that off and still compare it to Nomadland, it it lacks. It definitely, like, Nomadland lacks compared to Into the Wild.
Yeah, because you're just following this character around day to day. Into the Wild had an actual story
And
and
remember, this guy moved into a bus, and we really got to see what that struggle was like. They emphasized the
exactly.
struggle of not only getting there, how he got there, the people he met along the way, the people who he rejected. It's man, I hate to say it, this just kind of lowered my score more for Nomadland, putting that connection.
Oh. All right. Yeah, tell me now.
Oh, what did you give it? What did you give it?
You want me to go first?
Yeah,
I give it a 7 out of 10.
6.4.
6.4. Okay.
Yeah, because like the more and more I'm thinking about it, I'm like, it's not as original. It's not. I hate saying it because it is based on someone's story and everything like that. But in terms of a movie and structure, and if you want to view it as more of a documentary field, that's one thing. You can't make this comparison. But it's not a documentary; it's a movie. So it it just feels like, and I'm wondering, like, because I'm like, this all feels familiar because it already kind of has been done before by Into the Wild. So yeah, 6.4. And I think acting, great, but not a lot was given to Frances McDormand.
Yeah, I agree. I think she did well with what she was given, and yeah, I wouldn't watch this movie
And
again,
also,
unfortunately.
Chloe Zhao, good directing, not distinguishable though.
That's what I was
Like,
gonna actually say. Like, to be completely honest, I think this movie has a good message, but like, we're not gonna remember this. We're not. We're not gonna think
yeah,
about this in maybe like 6 months. We're gonna be like, oh, remember that movie we saw? But it's not a rememberable movie. It's not a movie that, for a
yeah,
movie that should make an impact and for to open our eyes, like it unfortunately just kind of falls flat. Like oh, that's sad, that did happen. Wow, I didn't know people went through this, and then we move on from it. You know what I mean? I think if you're
yeah,
gonna make a movie like this, there should be some kind of call to action. There should be some kind of like, this is what happened, you know, and I think Into the Wild is a really good job with that though,
yeah.
with
And
telling
I
somebody's
think
story
Into
and
the
then
Wild kind of like it came out during, and I think Into the Wild, like, not to like just boost up that movie's ego or anything, but that movie came out the year of the Great Recession. So even though it wasn't talked about during the time because this all happened like in the early 2000s, the setting was kind of perfect for the time that it came out.
like I said, I do feel like that movie also has a call to action when it comes about talking about people that choose that life. Where I feel like, unfortunately, they give us all this information, but they talk about so many people's story that lost everything. So what are we supposed to do for these people now?
Yeah.
How do we help these people? If you're gonna make a
There's no
movie
call
like
to
this,
action. There's no explaining this character's story from beginning to end. You get little blips here and there of the main character as well as, yeah, so I'm very solid on a 6.4. I think realizing it's just not memorable.
yeah, it's not.
It's okay. It's just okay. Like, it's one of those things where, like, if someone would be like, "Oh, you think it's good?" I'd be like, "Yeah, it's good." I would do the, "Yeah," not
Yeah,
"Yeah," you know?
yeah, yeah. And it's just not something you, again, like it's just one of those movies you're gonna watch once.
Yep.
I guarantee you. So unfortunately, yeah, I was expecting a little bit more, but it's okay.
Yep.
It's okay.
Now, I think it's easy to say that in terms of, because now we're adding the whole, would you buy it on DVD? I wouldn't. Even if there was like some fancy schmancy special edition, I just wouldn't.
No, it would just go to waste. I wouldn't watch
hmm
the movie again.
I do commend the movie for being very groundbreaking in terms of, Frances McDormand possibly being like, one of the first women to win Best Picture because she's a producer on it, so she would win.
No, I don't take away from like her
And,
accomplishments or
and I
even
don't
the
take away from the
directors.
accomplishments, and I'm not going to say that that award wasn't deserved, but I do think this movie is overhyped, and I do think that it's just not the best portrayal of anything that they're trying to portray.
I just kind of feel like it could have, if they wanted to give it to a female director, and she did great, and it's not taking away from her accomplishment. She got the award.
Yeah.
I just feel like after seeing this movie, Emerald Farrell should have got it.
I know.
Just
I
in
think
my
Emerald
opinion.
Farrell, she actually won, I think BAFTA or some other, maybe
Yeah.
another thing where she recently won. So who knows? I mean, I think for Oscars, especially since we don't know the nominations yet, I feel like it could be anyone's game. I have a feeling Oscars are going to directly be very, very different from Golden Globes. I just have this feeling that this year they're not going to correlate.
That's interesting. Okay.
Yeah, like, I feel like obviously something like Tenet is gonna be included, and like, honestly, like, in terms of supporting or even lead actor, like, there were great performances from last year. I think, like, a lot of the male performances are going to stay, but I really, fingers crossed, I'm hoping Spike Lee gets in.
I hope,
'Cause that
uh
probably was, like, one of my favorite movies from last year, like, at least top 3 that I
yeah, we
seen
put it
last
in our
year.
thing.
Yeah.
I hope, the Paul who what's his name? The guy that plays Paul gets
Paul,
it
oh my
for
god.
nominations.
Yeah. So that's what I'm hoping
Hoping
for to
for
see
this.
from the Oscars and everything like that. Um, but yeah, 6.7 sits well. So next time it will be our 50th episode, and we're
Woo!
gonna do a little
Excited.
something special. We're actually going to do a 50 question Q&A. So it'll be 25 questions to Savannah, 25 questions to me, and we'll just be asking some questions to each other, just talking about movies and stuff like that. But you'll see our faces. So it's
Woo!
going to be our first
Surprise.
ever video podcast episode thing, whatchamahoozle. So that should be a lot of fun. That should definitely be a lot of fun. And then after that, we got 2 foreign films that came out last year. We got Drut, also known as Another Round. I mean, I like the name Drut more.
It's solid.
It packs a punch. Drut, you know? So we're gonna be watching that Another Round starring Mads Mikkelsen, and then we're watching Sophia Loren's new movie. I keep forgetting the title of
So
it.
excited.
Do you remember the title? It's like It Is Life or something like that.
I don't remember I know it's on
Oh,
Netflix.
okay. Oh yeah, it's a Netflix original. But yeah, so the next time you hear us, we'll be doing all that good stuff. As always, shout out to homeboy James
Woo!
and Sensei David. And
Woo!
also be sure to check out our TikToks. Link below. We're doing some hot girl shit on there, so get into it. All right, thank you guys so much for listening. Bye.
Bye.